Я думаю,
Da, mi-am adus așa. Sper să nu răspuns. Așa, așa de mult, bine m-am gândit.
very much. I want to inform you that we also have a listening room or a relaxing room downstairs. It's the room 5, and our colleagues from Melomind prepared it nicely for you. And also, I will remind you that we have 3 workshops tomorrow. If you want to go to them, we have here the QR codes. Next, I want to thank you, Professor Tea Ionescu, for accepting our invitation to this conference. The theme will be giftedness related to music studying music. I remember this theme at the master that I took, and I thought that it will be the perfect theme for our conference. Thank you very much. I'll let you continue.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be in front of you. I quite didn't know that it will be a linkage with the International Week, so I'm happy to meet you. And I also did not talk with my colleague. We shared the office with Laura, but we didn't talk about our talks. But I'm glad that somehow there are many answers in her talk, and the questions and the answers that were in the end, you will see, we will kind of resonate with them when we speak about giftedness in music or in giftedness in general. So I also come from the Department of Psychology and from the Developmental Psychology Lab, again with children. I must confess that I had a hard time preparing this talk. I was very glad when Sebi and Simi invited me, but then I was like, whoa. Because of 2 things. Just like you, I suppose, I'm fascinated by music psychology, giftedness in music. Who doesn't like a child who plays the piano at 5 like nobody else? But I'm very much dissatisfied, and my students there can confirm, with the lack of data and with the lack of information decades after decades. We describe them very well, but we quite don't understand them yet. So I was like, what will I tell them? And it was difficult to think about something. And I'm glad that based on the questions at Laura's talk, I think we arrive in the same place, meaning caring for the gifted children. That's the huge transformation of the field in the last 2 decades, I would say. So I will lead you slowly toward there. And we will again arrive at education training and how to do this based on achievement only or holistically with the gifted child in mind, and then with all the children in mind. So very briefly about giftedness, then again a little bit briefly about giftedness in music, and speaking about transformations of the field that we all expect, but we cannot see so quickly. So what is giftedness? I think everybody knows that when we see somebody performing at a very high level, very early or after a little bit of training, or truly highly with a lot of training, we say he or she is gifted. Be it in music, in sports, in math, in physics, in biology, in research, in whatever we want. So there's not a problem with this definition, and humanity, it's millennia now, that always spotted the people who had different performance. But defining them scientifically is very, very difficult. And I know that you all know that it was for a long time equated with high intelligence. A high IQ means giftedness. So we kind of left out children gifted in music, in the arts, in sports, because the measurement was not fitted, and we spoke about talents and other things in those domains. Well, in the last 50 or 60 years, giftedness is an all-encompassing construct that speaks about children who perform well in all domains. And they tried to expand the definition to include personality traits, emotions, even social aspects we will see in a minute. But why, sorry. No, I have to have something beautiful here. Okay. Oh, why isn't it there? You see this? Yeah. Okay. We switch. We kind of use our executive functions, as you taught us, okay? So why is it so difficult to have an all-encompassing definition? Because on the one hand, we have children or people who perform at a high level. We have prodigies who are children up to 10, who have adult-like level performance in a domain, and they are necessarily gifted by definition. These are not necessarily prodigies. I can be discovered as a gifted child at 14 or at 15 and just start my training, okay? And then the important thing is, when I have creativity and I will create something in a field, you will see that the person is gifted. So a lot of time we just name people who are gifted because we saw that they play the piano very well, they just won a contest, they are good in sports, they just won the Olympics, or they solved a math problem that was unsolvable for 200 years. And we arrive at this problem that is between potential, and this is when we identify children to be gifted, they did not create truly anything yet, versus achievement, who are the creative, gifted people, the ones who change their field, be it through a new interpretation at the piano, be it by composing a different style, and be it by inventing a new branch in science, in math or physics or whatever. So we have all these groups which are very difficult to study together, and we will arrive toward the end to the reasons, like the objective reasons that we have for the difficulty of studying them. And it's very hard to put them one by one and to see what happens. Okay, I will go again for the big one because it went well. Okay, I don't know. It has its own giftedness. This technology is always gifted, too gifted for us. Okay, so the thing that changed a little bit the field in the last 3 decades is moving from the individual and its learning capital that comes through potential to including the environment. So when they study historically gifted people, researchers always find that you had to have a mentor, you had to have a parent that supported you, you had to have a school that was different, you had to have maybe not in your community, but you moved to a place where you had all the opportunities. And if this weren't there, you would not have manifested as an achieved, gifted person. So in the last 3 decades, they realized that we need to study the individual and the environment. And in fact, Ziegler has a model that is called axiotope, with a parallel with the biotope, to study everything together to understand the gifted and to understand how to nurture giftedness in children. And we move to giftedness in music, where because I saw that in your talk, it was also the debate between innate and acquired and the interaction. In giftedness in general, researchers agree that it is interaction. But funny enough, in the music domain, a lot of people still believe in innate ability, which is, again, and Alan Wiener is a very strong defender of the idea, which moved from having aptitudes that I was born with to having an innate potential to play music and listen to music and see patterns, hear patterns, and then become a musician. So it is a milder form of innateness, but I dare say that in psychology, it is kind of the only domain which is very strong, because in all other domains, as you might well know, we speak about interaction. There is a very strong research line that says that without deliberate practice, you cannot become a musician, even if you have innate potential. And there are studies coming from the expertise studies into the musical domain that show that no matter how high my potential is at birth and afterwards, if I don't practice, like I don't get to the 10,000 hours. And some researchers analyzed also Mozart, and they discovered that the symphonies that they still play, written by Mozart, were composed after kind of 10,000 hours, because he was only playing music since he was 2. So we find that deliberate practice, and we know that his father was a little bit authoritarian, but that was the epoch. It wasn't his fault, I would say. So we do have this line of research that say that without practice you cannot achieve, but only with practice you can also not achieve. So if I start tomorrow and I only play piano and I have 10,000 hours and I don't have the potential to like music, to think in music, to whatever, I will not be the musician that the person with the innate potential is. So on the other hand, we do not have the methods to disentangle them properly, so it's hard to speak. But yes, people speak about interaction with more of a focus of innate potential, especially in music, more so than in arts and in sports. Well, and less so in math and so on. So their innateness speaks only about the learning potential. This is true. All gifted children have higher memory in general and for their domain, and a higher ability to absorb everything they see, so higher ability to learn. But this is a difference in quantity, not in quality. They are not different. They learn in the same way, but they can learn more. Now, if we speak about giftedness in children, just to take you to music, giftedness in music, we have this kind of things they do and the other children do not do as easily, as early, or as much as children who like music. So the spontaneous response to rhythm and music, which we see in all children, but gifted children in music stop to listen to music. Whatever they do, when they hear some music, they will stop and begin to do this. So they don't need to play the violin, but instantly become tuned to rhythm and love singing or playing an instrument. But when they are very small, they kind of use their bodies. They have a highly developed ear for sounds. And I know a boy, he's now 8 or 9. He plays the piano. The family, contrary to our colleague, to what our colleague said, does not let him play the piano at a piano school. He's very musical, and he would like to be in front of the screen all the times or in front of the piano. And the parents does not let him to be in front of the screens, and they have passwords. And he got the passwords from the remote control based on the sounds of the numbers. And just they found him in front of the TV. And they were like, how? He has an immense ear. I think he also have the absolute pitch. So he is like, and he's like, okay, I will just play and listen. And so this is the kind of giftedness in music that we speak about. I have a hard time convincing their parents to let him play like deliberately. But well, maybe he will grow and he's not in the category of not liking music, and he will go and play. And hopefully he will not lose some abilities, because this is one of the reasons you need practice to form your fingers, for instance, for piano or other instruments, to truly develop the brain areas that will be needed. So this is why it's more important to have it early, okay? A very good music for memory for music. And they instantly recognize a song from the first la la la. and chooses music to express feelings. That's again something I think that when music came to science, music psychology, we started to focus on cognitive abilities and how I need cognitive abilities or it develops cognitive abilities. A lot of researchers today say that we should study the emotions. And again, in the discussions, we were touching emotions and how I express feelings and how this is very important for being musical, for being gifted in music, and for becoming an achiever. So we have all these kind of elements that we sometimes see when they are 3 or 4, which is very early. And if it meets with an environment that it's nurturing, we maybe will see an achieved musician. Now, why is it so difficult to have clear concepts in giftedness research? I found 3, maybe there are more, reasons for this. And the first is, oh no, okay. And the first is sampling. Because, as my colleague said, you find 7 children, 10 children, and when you want to study giftedness in general, 2 are in music, 2 are in arts, 2 are in sports, 2 are in math, and 2 are in language. So how do I compare them? And it is very difficult to have, and 1 is 6, 1 is 14 in music at the same instrument. How do I compare them? How do I form representative samples? So this is what I discussed with Simi in the break, that we need totally new methods, and with Florin. Then it's timing, because there is still the question, if a child is gifted at 10, will he become an achieved musician? And then we will say, okay, I saw it, I predict it, and or he will not. And then it's just potential. But then this is different from the one who is creative and gets to be achieved. Or I study an achieved musician, and I start to ask myself, was he a prodigy? And I go back in time, and then it's even harder to try to find the factors that shaped his development. Simonton has a lot of studies with the historiometric approach, meaning he takes achieved personalities in various areas and goes back in time with interviews to redo the path that they followed in their development. And it's a very important problem. And then instruments. Because if I test a gifted child in music, it's not the same instrument with a gifted child in math. If I give the IQ test, it's the same. I will have a number, but that number is so vague and general that it doesn't tell me anything. And for instruments in different domains like music, we need experts in those domains. When we have experts, they have different feelings toward what they hear, so there's subjectivity. But we cannot argue for complete objectivity because there is none. I mean, I think technology is showing us that when you have complete objectivity, you lose so much of what defines ourselves as a species. So we kind of don't want to take out subjectivity, but then how to put it in to have very clear-cut experiments, nice and clean. When you depend on experts in a domain, you will never be able to generalize to other domains. But maybe this is also something that we just hope for, to study in one domain and generalize, because we know that we function domain specifically. So we again need methods to be able to investigate thoroughly in domains and speak about domains. And this is where I think that practicing in any domain, in fact, develops brain networks in the same way, in slightly different areas. But this is why when we are adults, if we had music or sports or math, we kind of function in a similar way, because in fact, we developed the networks that are required. So these are the reasons for not having clear concepts. And as a consequence, we cannot say that we know much more about what is giftedness and how to predict achievement in gifted children today. But as I told you in the beginning, the huge change that came into the domain, like in the last 2 decades, is moving toward, no, okay, we will stay here. Moving toward positive gifted education, moving from concentration on achievement, achievement, achievement. And what our colleague said, that training in sport, training in trumpet, training in something was just like this, forgetting about the child, forgetting about the whole child and the environment, toward thinking about the needs of the gifted child, thinking about, Ziegler is the first ones among the ones who argue today that they need to be let to choose. I might be gifted, but I don't want to become an achieved gifted person. I want to, I don't know, do something else. So they need to choose for themselves. When we put them in training very early, it's kind of, we have chosen. From this point of view, the family that doesn't want to take the boy to piano maybe is doing the right thing. They want to widen the horizon for him and not focus him already on the piano. This is a very hard question for parents when you have a gifted child. This idea of caring for the whole child and for the whole environment, Ziegler speaks about what I showed you, individual learning resources and educational resources. And we know quite a lot now about the educational system that supports giftedness. And that's a huge issue because all over the world, there are two myths. One, that gifted children will succeed by themselves, so they don't need anything. And we do see that in an environment that has scarce resources, it's always gifted children that are a little bit better. But we forget that they would be much better if they had the resources. So it's not fair toward themselves again. Or the other myth is that they will become elite and they will forget about the rest of us. And I was very surprised to find this in literature, in studies, like in the last 5 or 10 years in the USA, and all over the world, that we kind of don't need to give them resources because they will become so good that they will take all the resources for them. And the literature on the gifted children and adults show that, in fact, a lot of them are very moral. They are very ethical. So as a group, they will not tend to take for themselves what they are given. They will give back, and they will not become the elite that will forget about us. But you find these two things, and this is these are the reasons for which usually all over the world, with few exceptions, gifted children are not educated truly in a different way. And this is also bad for the rest of children because the literature says that we miss a lot of gifted children because of the lack of resources. So we might find 1 or 2 who struggled and had the parents or something, but we might leave 5 or 6 out that were never seen because of the lack of educational resources or contextual resources for them. And over again, a thing that you know very well, the studies find that mentors are essential. So the one-to-one education for gifted children is vital. It doesn't matter if it's enrichment or acceleration, both of them do good. It can be homeschooling for them, but at one moment they need to find a mentor in their domain, for instance, a great piano player who will teach him or her piano that will take them further. And without this, it's very, very difficult to just do it by yourself or in a group. So I go like this. So what is seen as an important thing is to continue to find methods to identify them, not to lose children, for instance, in low economical backgrounds, who are never seen to be gifted and who could be the next Einstein or Mozart or whomever we want, then offer opportunities which needs to be nurturing, which needs to be care for holistic development. Opportunities does not mean, okay, don't practice 3 hours a day, but 5. That's not opportunity. It's how I practice, how I'm interested in how they develop socially, how they develop. There are some interesting studies on tiger mothers who take their children to music lessons and to a lot of deliberate practice, but they forget about the social world of the child and never let them play. So it's good for achievement, but then at the personal level, children will be in the group Laura talked about, like, I never want to see music again because I never get to meet our children. So it's not that good sometimes to be a tiger mother. We need to think about the holistic development and offer opportunities that goes a wide range, especially because, as we talked, there's little far transfer, but you never know when something that you saw in another domain gives you an idea for what you do, and that will spark your achievements. So this is another thing that it's not explained by psychological research yet. So for this kind of caring environment, the World Council for Gifted and Talented Children developed a set of principles for those who teach gifted children, and together with two former students of mine, we have translated them in Romanian too. You can find them on the website, because they say that all teachers at one point in their lifetime meet a gifted child in their classroom, and they need to be able to recognize him or her, to nurture, to give them opportunities, even if I'm not the piano teacher, but I am with the child in the classroom that plays piano. And I remember now, I think maybe you were colleagues, we have a former student in a private school here, and they had, she's a counselor, and they had a child who was very reckless in third grade, very. And of course, they took him to her. And she discovered that whenever he saw musical notes, he was like, attentive and not reckless anymore. And she worked with the teachers to transform all the problems for him in language, in math, with musical notes. And instantly, he was the most attentive child. And then he brought to other children biographies of composers. And he started to play the piano at the school, because being private, they had a piano. And he totally changed, because she discovered that, well, this child has something in music and we need to use it. And from that side come to make him sit in school in all the classroom and learn, because they need to go to school and learn. So this is important to know that we do have some guidelines for people who would meet them, exactly for the idea that we need to identify them properly and then to care for them and integrate them. Research on integrating them or taking them out is mixed. They both function, and maybe they function because of other resources. So children can be integrated in normal classrooms and function well, or can be taken out and function well. But again, there is the larger context that matters the most. So this is what I wanted to present you today. Very vague and very question-like, because this is what we have in the domain. Alfred Ziegler said in 2011 that if we don't have a paradigm shift in giftedness research, we will be in the same place in 100 years. Hopefully not. And yes, we did move toward caring education, but we still don't understand everything about why they are gifted and exactly what causes this giftedness. So for all the younger colleagues in the room, there's a lot of room for research, and we do hope to find answers in the coming years. Thank you. And now I was thinking that we might have a longer time for question and answers. This is how I shaped my presentation, so please.
As you were speaking and talking about gifted children in school or with private teachers, and I was thinking that it's very time consuming when in the case of teachers who wants to have who has gifted children on their gifted child on their hand, and they want to teach them all the things, like a normal child would have, like, I don't know, 30% of the knowledge for his age if he would be at the normal speed of understanding. And if he is gifted, the teacher would like to have to give to him the 100% of the information. think it's time consuming and would be a better opportunity for the teacher to explore the possibility for the child to innovate the thing. I mean, if he is gifted, he may have a more he would have a better understanding or much more creativity than a normal child on the thing. Like if he would play piano, I can innovate the thing. I can find different styles to play because I don't know all the information for playing the piano, but I have this giftedness and I can do much more than just the basics or just all the knowledge that is there.
Great, because this is complex, and I, in my mind, have 3 lines of answering. I hope that I will not forget them. So first of all, usually gifted children ask for more. So it's the teacher who is, okay, now I have to bring more tomorrow, and I have to bring more because it's not enough. The 30%, is not enough the 50%. I arrive to 100% and they want more. And this is why sometimes you change mentors, because you need to go higher on the ladder. So this is one. It's not that it's bad to give them. It's in developmental psychology, we say that we should give all children as much as they ask for when they ask, which is difficult when I have 30 children in the room. So if they ask for more, it means that kind of they're ready to learn it, and we should give them more. I know that you were thinking that a lot of knowledge can make me sometimes kind of rigid and doesn't give me room for flexibility and innovation. Well, here data is mixed, truly, because there are studies on mental set that show that experts, not necessarily gifted, but experts, at some point of expertise tend to think about only the knowledge they know, and if a problem is very different, they will not solve it. But then studies with higher level experts find that, in fact, when you add learning, you will become able to go in all the places in your domain and to innovate better. So I would predict that they need the knowledge, a lot of knowledge, before being able to innovate and create, because otherwise you risk to reinvent what is already invented. That's one reason. And on the other hand, I cannot innovate in a domain where I don't have knowledge at all, even if I'm very interested in a domain and very keen to explore. So this is why I would say that they need to be given that 120% of knowledge. I underline again, the difficult part is for the teachers. How do I transmit all the knowledge to a 7-year-old when, I don't know, in piano, I know that it's 8 years when you have the length between your fingers, so you need to wait for your hand to grow. So I cannot learn different things, and sometimes they get frustrated. I cannot play that because I don't have the hand. So it's literally growing and then having all the knowledge that will help me innovate. On the other hand, the third line is not all gifted children are creative, not all gifted children will create, and not all creative people will achieve change in a domain. Change at this level is called paradigmatic change, like a composer with a totally new style, a scientist that has a new paradigm in his field, which is rare. That's a thing that is not very satisfying for us humans, because, well, we have to admit we would all like to innovate and create, but it's kind of out of the 10 or 15% who's gifted is truly 1 or 2%, and nobody knows yet why, like in the sense of what they have different as individuals or what they had different as resources and external resources. But the literature turns gifted also the children who do not create, who just have this immense learning potential in their field and will achieve expertise level-like performance. And that's gifted. So you don't have to innovate. Maybe innovation is just for truly moving forward, not changing every day everything just for the sake of changing every day everything. But the discussion is very, very complex in innovation and creativity, and we don't have answers there yet. Hope that I tried to answer your...
I would like to continue a bit. As you were speaking about not all the gifted children innovate, I reminded myself about something I was trying to play with. I would say a gifted child. He was like, I don't know, 8 or 10 years old, and he was playing the piano very good. I was playing the guitar with him. We were having a duo, and I said to him, let's play something. I don't know. Let's do a jam session. And he said, I cannot do that. I have to follow the script. I have to play something that I know. And I said to him, but okay, you know all the notes. Yes, I know all the notes. Then play 3 notes that go along. I cannot do that if it's not a real song.
There are studies on improvisational thinking in music, very interesting. One is a case study with a 17-year-old, and they see that there are stages. So even like gifted children in this field will first do very well everything that it's in the field already when they are young, and then they will combine, and the personal style comes the latest. And this girl was studied from 11 to 17, and it was only at 17 that she was like, okay, now I will play like this because I want to. And all the other stages were necessary. You cannot jump. This is what we adults think because we are already developed. So we forget the stages we went through, and we say, oh, but you can play so well, better than me. Then you will jump to being 25 and doing this, but they are still children. This is where this caring for the whole child comes in. They are still children, and we need to acknowledge that they will have their trial and error period in which they need to go to the errors and things they need to learn, and then jump to a different thing. This is very interesting from, you are in the lab too, from the perspective of variability, stability, flexibility growing. So I do need stability of knowledge before becoming able to be flexible, and exploring before knowledge is not truly flexibility, is more a variable trial and error, trying to find the solution. Once I know the domain, I can purposefully jump to some other strings and forget about the non-necessary ones. So I think that we have a key to explain there, and yes, we have to think about experiments for that. Now this was picking in what we do in the lab. Yeah.
I was wondering if the literature ever speaks about gifted children who drop their talent and later want to pick it up. If to pick it up it's as easier as when it was learning it, or was it a harder process?
So when they pick up after giving up, it's easier for them than for us, who never had training. But it's not easier for them, and they are lower in performance than their peers who continue training. And it's a whole literature on underachievement, and the way you lose yourself, and then some want to come back. Again, they are better than us, but they lose a little bit from their manifestation of potential, because I'm not sure that they lose their potential. That's a hard thing to say, because of the lack of practice. So this is, I think this is exactly the reason why people want to keep them practicing and achieving, because otherwise you lose your abilities. And this is one thing we know how to do. I put you in front of the piano and you play 5 hours, and that's all. But it's true that then it's harder. And I would think about sensitive periods, like in developmental psychology, for anything like language learning. If I'm learning it until 5 in an informal home environment, I will be very good in my maternal language. If I'm abandoned and I don't hear language and I pick up at 7 or 10, I will learn some words, I will learn some phrases, but I will not be as fluent as I would have learned between 0 and 5. And I think this is true for all domains and for all levels of performance. I am very skillful at 10, I quit playing, I kind of lose sensitive periods for my muscles, my ear, my conveying emotions, my everything, and this is why it will be harder for them, yeah. So people who are underachievers are one concern in the literature of gifted. We would like them not to be underachievers if they don't choose so, because again, they can choose not to go after they're gifted or gift. Yeah.
So I really like the idea of capitalizing on the environment and defocusing from that exclusive thing of the individual who probably is an innate genius and such. But I was thinking I tried to mix that with the information that you provided later about that very interesting historiometric or something approach. What if we focus on the environment and in these accounts of these people, the environment maybe was harsh. Maybe they had a lot of focus on practice. Maybe the people were very demanding of them. I remember from Maslow's studies when he looked at these self-actualized people, a lot of times we wouldn't want the ingredients that help them become. So what do we do if we find out that for a lot of these gifted people, they had harsh environments, they had adversity? Do we foster that?
Yeah, that's a very good question because we don't have, you can imagine, guidelines about the proper context. It's too soon and I think we will not have that. So yes, historiometrically, we do find that people like in the Second World War or things like this, they grew up in very bad environments and arrived at high achievement because of their motivation to escape from that. But you always find something or somebody that nurtured or kept them. And it doesn't need to be all the time all good. But it has to be, I found my mentor for 2 months. And that mentor set me on a path. I remember now the stories about children in Romanian villages like decades ago that were supported by the priest to go to school and became novelists. So, but they needed to be supported by a person. Their parents didn't want to take them to school, but to work, like it's classical. And then they needed one person, and nobody says that you have to have a long time relationship with it. So the literature would not say that we need to focus on the harsh and make it harsher. But we find in parenting some ideas that we need to show children that life is difficult. Well, I don't know if you agree or not. I have some doubts. But on the other hand, studies show that speaking about good socioeconomic environments, and if we look like very good countries that are wealthier have the most Nobel Prizes in the world. End point. Because they have the money in the labs, in the music labs, to have the new instruments, and the other countries do not. So you do find, when you look from a bigger view, that it's more important. We don't know yet how to put them together. But I do think that the clue would be through that one kind of support that the child found. Like now I remember I talked to students about this because I was fascinated at a talk of Mario Capecchi, who's a biologist, and he invented the method of knockout mice in gene studies, and he has the Nobel for this. And I was lucky to be at a presentation, and he has a very interesting story. Like his mother was an artist and came from the USA to Italy. And the Second World War started, and she was against the fascists and went to prison, and the child stayed on the street. And then after the war was over, his mother found him. That's amazing already. And took him back to the USA to her brother, who was a professor at the university, and he grew up there. And then he became the Nobel Prize winner. So it was very harsh at the beginning, but then you find the support. So I think that the key is there. If you find support in the harsh environment, and the harsh environment just makes you want to get out from the harsh environment.
So you would say it's more despite the adversity rather
Yeah.
than you need
Because,
diversity
yeah,
to-
yeah. I would be in that camp. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Taking into consideration these sensitive periods, if a gifted child is found out later in the childhood or early adulthood or something, will they achieve that full potential? And if yes, will they have those stages, those rigid stages of going through them to achieve flexibility?
I would not call them rigid because they are necessary. So
Yeah,
it's more
yeah, yeah.
stable
Yeah, more
than
stable
rigid.
than
It's a well, it's a long discussion. It depends on the domain. There are in the literature differentiations according to domains. For instance, if you are a boy and you have that very high-pitched voice, you cannot have that after 14 or 15. So you need to be trained and acknowledged before that. And they reach the final stage of their performance at 10 or 12, and then the majority of them changes voice, and that's all. So it depends on domain. In science, for instance, it's the latest. So you see eminence in 50 plus, because you have a lot to learn. So in sports, for instance, it depends on the sport. You cannot have a gymnast at 50. Like literally, you cannot. And this is why they want to change us and to make half robots, half human, to be able to do that. But I'm not sure that that's the answer. But so it depends on the domain. Now, regarding the stages, I think this is very individually variable. Because in general, it might be that a musical gifted child will go through the stages in 2 years and another in 10. The endpoint will be the same, but we have different rates of growing, and that will make studies even more difficult. But this is also in learning, like some children would like to learn math like normally at 5 and others at 12. The literature says that we should go at the age when they ask about it, but we cannot start math training at 12 with children. So we put them there and, oh, they grow not to like math because it was too soon. So this is another issue of, should we go soon, like some parents do? Okay, if it's early, if there are sensitive periods, maybe I must have my child at 2 begin. English, piano, sports, math, chemistry, whatever, to find the spark and then start practicing, just like Laura said, to have better abilities, which is not what the literature recommends. Because usually, Alan Wiener has very nice expressions. These children march to their own drummer and they show us that they like that. That's one thing we don't know where it comes from, that intrinsic motivation for a domain. And you see that very, very early. You don't need to take them to classes because they will stick to some books or they will stick to music. They will, whenever they hear music, it's like, huh, okay, okay, or start to, like, I know a girl, very musical, and she was, I think, 10 months old, when I first saw her. She was in our lab, in fact, and she was humming on a tune that we use in kindergarten, like a very easy tune, which is a couple of minutes. She was humming it when I entered, she stopped, she looked at me. Of course, then I said, what a nice girl, what a nice, she was 10 months, she didn't say anything. And after that break, she retake the humming from the point that she left it, and kind of with preschool tunes, you know them, it was easy for me, and took it to the end. And I looked to her mother and I said, 10-month-old. And she's humming like, like, and I interrupted and I was like, you have to take her to music schools. She was like, oh, we'll see. She sings beautifully. She sings beautifully. But it's you see it. You cannot miss it. It's kind of, you cannot miss it. And this caring education also points out that we should pay attention to all children, because sometimes we miss the domain that they are interested in, because some will like putting rocks one on another, and we say, oh, what's this? We need math or piano or something. But they will be builders, and we don't encourage them at 2, because at 2, what can you do with rocks? But we should pay more attention to what they do and then foster, but in an open way, like having that opportunity, because sometimes in 1 or 2 years they forget about it and they have something else. And some gifted children are, especially academically gifted children, they like math, then they like biology, then they like history, then they like geography, and forget about the other ones. And you need to let them, because ultimately I would argue that they should choose what they do, not us choosing for them. It's very hard with prodigy children, because they have such a high performance at 3, 4, or 5 that somehow you feel that you need to have them practice. But then again, some will give up, and we should not be upset. I mean, it's their life. They have to be able to choose to be psychologists, not musicians, or whatever they want. Like, I do have colleagues who have now adolescent children, and they say, I don't want them to come to psychology studies. And why are you here? I mean, if they have all the books, they heard you all the times, and you don't want to. I mean, you don't force them, but if they want to, you cannot say no. Maybe they will be the best psychologists in the world. So it's kind of, we as parents need to learn to let them, I don't know, choose, which is hard because we always want the best for them. And we think we are adults and we have better judgment, and we kind of don't. I would say, yeah. Sorry, I was too long. Other questions? Yeah.
So, what do we do in adulthood if, for example, we have a gifted child that didn't take care of the potential? I don't want to say waste the potential.
Yeah. In the, you find this term in the literature,
then,
waste, yeah.
And then we just never take care of it, and then in adulthood, does it just purely dissolve, or is just their signs?
It's there. It's there. If they start in the domain, they again are better than us. But it will not get to the level of, well, there is a term in the literature that's not that nice too. We like it when it's applied to us, but it's a harsh one, eminence. So they will not reach eminence if they didn't practice. But they will find that it's very easy. And there are stories of novelists who began writing at 40, yeah. Like, if you know Isabel Allende, she was a journalist and her first novel was 40 and she's writing at 80. So it's like, okay, there is hope. Or musicians or people who change, like even our director now, if you know, today or tomorrow we'll find out if Christian Mungiu has Palme d'Or. And he was trained as a language teacher. He worked as a language teacher because it was at the end of the communist time. And then he switched to directing. So it was later. And then he's the director that he is. Maybe he would have been better known if he had the background from Hollywood or whatever. So this is where you see differences. But he's still among the best, you see? So yeah, it's very hard. And I think the hardest, it's again for the individual. When you discover that you could have been very good at something nobody thought. So it wasn't that your parents didn't allow you to, but nobody thought that you would do saxophone. And you discover that you blow 2 or 3 times at a party and whoa, I would have been good. That's it's hard sometimes to stick with the choices you made, with the things you didn't know. You find out that maybe you're 35 and oh, okay, maybe it's too late or it's not too late. I think we should encourage people that it's never too late because of brain plasticity. And then maybe you try at 70 and still get better than me. So it's a good thing, yeah. But it will lose their achievement. At their achievement level, yeah. Yeah.
I have a question maybe more practical.
Mm-hmm.
So we live in Romania. We are a famous in this country, and that was very big in the past for the what I'm trying to ask you, kindly, is if you can, as a mentor, imply more in high level in terms of interpretation or something like this, because as we know, unfortunately, on my side, those kinds of gifted people are trained extracurricular.
Yeah.
We all know there are excellencies centers, let's say, but
That was very good, let's say. I have a story about this.
yes, I also
Yeah.
So,
Maybe coffee break, we share stories. Yeah.
okay. So my question is, because you as a, you meaning you as a plural, you as a professional at a high level, at
We
that
hope so.
excellence level, you have something to say on my side in front of everybody. So maybe it would be a good idea, let's say, maybe sharing this presentation with some words spoken, because it's not enough just for just a PowerPoint presentation. With some people involved really in the developing of the, let's say, curricula, but not so straight as it is.
So why did I go back here, is when we translated this, we send it directly to the Ministry of Education. It's like, no, it's out there, it's free. You can take it and give it to professors. Nobody ever. It was 2021. I'm still waiting for the answer. So we tried several times with several things. Nobody replies if you do it like this, if you're not in their structures. And yes, we do need a lot of change. So it's not only school for people who are from abroad. You know that even if the school does not have always the best resources, you have science museums, you have hubs where they go and play the piano and they can go there. We have nothing. I mean, we have Simi, who started some things for musical children, yes, and some, but we don't have even places to take children to do something else, to discover their abilities. And yes, those excellence centers were made because they were required. And we went there with Alexandra, in fact, did her dissertation on gifted children. And well, we took the approach of IQ because we didn't have any other measures in Romanian. And we went to the Excellence Center and there was only the doorman. So it's a nice building, it's empty, in Cluj, and it's the doorman. And he said, go to the schools and take the children who go to the Olympics. This is the only thing we have, the Olympiad for math, language, and so on, which is a Soviet thing. And so we went to the schools. We had 21 children who agreed, their parents agreed. Only 8 of them were gifted according to the intelligence score, because going to Olympiad can mean that I just learn, and I'm good, I'm an expert, but I'm not gifted. So we did not find them in the building doing things for their enrichment. And then I had my son in 5th grade. I didn't want to send him there. He said, no, I want, because I'm going with my colleagues and so on. And I'm glad it is recorded. The Romanian teacher was choosing wedding gowns for herself while they were doing extra exercises. So this was the Excellence Center. And I told him, you never go there again. I can give you exercises at home. So they do kind of nothing. I'm not saying that everybody is like this, but this is what happened. I took him out, okay, because it's in vain. So a lot of gifted teachers do not get there, and a lot of gifted children do not get there. But we do have things on the paper, and we truly do not do much for them. So yes, we need to include them. We need not to have them only go to Olympiads, which are an option, but it's like transforming them into robots, as far as I can tell from what is there. And I do say students this, and it's a sad thing. So we do have a lot of Olympics, which are very good. So we are proud, I am proud of them. But we do not have any Nobel in our country taken from the country. We do not have any high performances in the country. So we do not do anything afterwards with or for them. It's just sending them to have first place in a competition. And it's good for them that they move to places with resources. I encourage this. But as an educational system, what do? And what do we do for them? Because they don't want to stay here, they don't have the resources. So we need to think about resources. We need to think about curricula for everybody, not just for them. And we need to have teachers who really want to do this. But for this, to take the side of teachers, we need 15 children in classrooms, not 30. So that's the first thing that we need. And then teachers will do their jobs, and then they will do things differently, and so on and so on. So yeah, we should think about changing things at the educational level. However, I'm not in my most optimistic period. Because, well, Laura and I and Sebi have seen so many years passing by with so many of us saying things in different areas, and things didn't go, like, not even linearly. That it's a mystery why this is happening. And again, it's bad for children who are first place in Olympiads, or children who are not discovered, or yeah. So I keep telling my students that they should build a science museum, they should build an emotion festival and museum to have things for children where they can do other things, at least extracurricularly, because now in Romania extracurricular means lessons of math, lessons of piano, lessons of Romanian, lessons of some with a teacher, and that's it. So it's not really extracurricular activities for children. If you go to Spain, if you go to Germany, if you just go in a small city to a science museum or an art museum, and you see children there with the teachers and speaking about the shade of color on the painting, and you discover that some of your children is very talented in painting. Well, we do not do that, unfortunately. Yeah. So please, the younger generation, take our children, get them to, like, for instance, we have a paleontological field, chantier, well, where the paleontologists find fossils, and it is in Hatzeg, and it is a UNESCO site, and it did discover eggs and new kinds of dinosaurs, and nobody knows about them. Not a school takes children in there because they don't have resources to have lodging for children in there, and it's beautiful, and people there are fascinating and passionate and just dig for fossils, and nobody knows about this. So we do have the places. We should find the means to take children and teachers there, and it shouldn't be that easy. I don't know. Maybe next year we have a conference on paleontology and gifted children in fossils. Well, not really an answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dad, for agreeing to be here with us. The theme is very interesting. Thank you. Giftedness. And I was thinking of my own child when Thea was saying, do we force children? Do we support them? Do they waste their potential? And I'm always amazed, and I have this inner smile when someone says, especially in education, we are preparing the children for the future. We don't know what is the future, especially with AI and everything that changes now. We cannot honestly say that we prepare the children now, a child that is, I don't know, finishing kindergarten, entering school, 12 years from now. Just think about how the world looked 12 years before. Has any of you, any of us think, I know how it's going to look 12 years from now, 2026? No. So, yeah, it's always funny. But I think the idea remains, let's support children in what they want to do. I think it's really important. I always ask my daughter, what are your passions? And she says, dragons. And I keep my smile. Okay, tell me more about dragons. Yes. So fossils will be our next. Yes. But they're amazing. They are really our future. That's one future we know. So thank you for paying attention. Thank you for all the questions. It's been really nice. We're going to take a short break. Don't go just yet. like a 10 minutes break, and then we'll have a presentation which will be in Romanian, because I don't know why.
He's a doctor
He's a doctor in
at the university.
University of yes, Timișoara, in University of UVT, West Timișoara, yes, which is in the west of the country. And he prepared the presentation in Romania. He's also a musician. Actually, he's a conductor, right? Yes. Voice. Okay, sorry. I'm the newbie, so I'm allowed this. And if you're interested and curious, sure, be here with us. We will have the recording, and we will do our best to put the translation, so you'll all get the recording of this. And after that, we'll have another presentation about doing research, which is interesting. And then in the end, the last presentation will be about the Cluj Cultural Center, which are, let's say, our newest partners. We discuss about ideas how to combine arts in general, music more specifically, and then well-being and personal growth. Okay? Thank you. 10 minutes break, and then we'll meet here again. Thanks. Mersi, foarte faină.